When you're having your piano tuned, what is a pitch raise and when should you have it done? I recently tuned this piano in Canton, Ohio. In this picture, I've already taken the lid off and vacuumed all the dust off of the soundboard. I also took the key cover off and pulled out all the pens and pencils and miscellaneous stuff that had fallen down into the piano. The owner of this piano had gotten it for free, and the previous owner had not had it tuned in probably 20 years. So take a listen to how it sounded before I started tuning the piano. Anytime that a piano is substantially out of tune, what happens is, as I'm tuning the piano, I'm tightening the strings. And that, in turn, is compressing the plate. And so, when you add all those strings, which there are many, a piano has 88 keys, but each key has 2 to 3 strings. Most have 3. The more strings that I tighten on the piano, the more the plate becomes compressed. And the more the plate is compressed, the more the remaining strings are going back out of tune again. So what happens is I tune the lower section of the piano and the upper section goes out of tune. Then I tune the upper section of the piano and the lower section goes out of tune. So the whole purpose of a pitch raise is to just try to bring the whole piano up into what I call the ballpark, right? Just to get it within close to where it should be. For example, if a piano is starting out a half a step flat, my goal is to just raise all the strings half a step. Then what I do is I go through and I do the fine tuning. So that initial raising of the pitch, that's called a pitch raise. So when I do a pitch raise, I am literally going over the whole entire piano from the bass section all the way to the high treble twice in order to get the piano in tune. So my rule of thumb is that if a piano hasn't been tuned in 2 years or more, it's gonna need a pitch raise. Now, there are exceptions in either direction. Sometimes I'll sit down at a piano that hasn't been tuned in 3 years and it doesn't need a pitch raise because it's already so close. And other times, I'll sit down at a piano that I tuned 8 months ago and it needs a pitch raise because it's so far out of tune. This is also why, if you have your piano tuned regularly, each time you have it tuned, the tuning will become more and more stable and more accurate. What happens is, if you don't have your piano tuned regularly, there's so much new tension and compression added to the plate that it is not as stable as it would otherwise be if you had your piano tuned regularly. And so what happens is being unstable, it goes out of tune more readily to do a pitch raise on a piano. And when I am done, your piano will be perfectly in tune. And depending upon how far I had to raise that pitch, in other words, how badly out of tune was it when I started? If it wasn't like real bad, then you can be pretty confident that tuning is going to last about a year. But if it was really bad out of tune, that tuning might last for 6 months or 8 months or something like that. So let's listen to how the piano sounded after the pitch raise and tuning.